which will be held today at 4 o'clock, Tuesday the 7th of July in the Guildhall. Next item on the agenda is member attendance and apologies. I'll pass over to Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Jason Barr. Councillor Michaela Boyle. Councillor Michael Cooper. Councillor Shauna Cusack. Councillor Mary Durkin. Councillor Rory Farrell. Councillor Rachel Ferguson. Alderman Darren Guy. Councillor Patricia Logue. Councillor Anne McCluskey. Councillor Aileen Mellon. Alderman David Ramsey. And Alderman Graham Ward. Thank you, members.
Thanks, Stephen. I'm going to read out the webcast notice. I would like to remind everybody present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This webcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. If you are seated in the lower public seating or media areas, it is possible that the recording cameras will capture your image, and this will result in the possibility that your image will become part of the broadcast. This may infringe your human and data protection rights, and if you wish to avoid this, you should move to the upper public gallery. Thanks. So item 3 in the agenda is declarations of members' interests. Rachel?
Thank you, Chair. Number 10 for the member of the LAG.
Okay. Graham? That's it? Right, so item number 4, Chairperson's business. There's just a couple of points I'd like to make. So first of all, welcome back to the Guildhall. It's been a few months since we've seen each other in person. It's good to be back in the Guildhall. It's good to be having face-to-face meetings again. So long may that continue. So this is my first chairing of a meeting in the Guildhall. The last time I did it in my living room in the house with no shoes on. So this is slightly different. In my opening remarks at that meeting, I said that this committee and this council had a key role to play in the recovery of businesses and the recovery of cultural organisations during the COVID pandemic. There's a few points I'd like to make, and then there's a proposal that I want to make as well. In terms of business, in terms of the economy, there's 3 items that have sort of cropped up since we last met that cause concern to me. At the Strategic Growth Partnership last week, Owen McGuinness from Ulster University had a presentation that said we could be looking at 4,000 job losses across this city and district. Our economy across Derry and Strabane could contract by 9.5%. So that's obviously very worrying for us as a Business and Culture Committee, as us as councillors that represent the people of this city and district. The second point that has caused concern is the news that was released by Sinead McLaughlin yesterday about Invest NI. 82% of jobs, and then the rest was spread across other council areas, of which we are one. And the third issue that I want to raise is the Economy Minister presented a report entitled Rebuilding a Stronger Economy, and that's the pathway to recovery for the Northern Ireland economy. It focuses on 3 things: higher paid jobs, which I fully support; improving skills, which is on our agenda for today; and the third one is regional balance. And we've had this discussion and we've had this debate many times in this chamber about regional balance, and that is something that's going to be essential if Derry City and Strabane District Council comes out of COVID. If we want our economy to recover, there's two issues that were referred to in that report, and it seems to be all about transport and seems to be about improved rural broadband. That's how this report sees that it's going to achieve regional balance. There's no mention of targeted support for areas that need it most, and that is what our priority should be. This is all within the gift of the Economy Minister, and I'm not going to re-invite the Economy Minister here. We already invited her again last month. She may think that I have an unhealthy obsession with her and her department, but I'd just like to keep this on the agenda ahead of our expected meeting. But I do have a proposal. It's a proposal that can have a significant impact on cultural organisations throughout this city and district. The British Chancellor of the Exchequer announced a 1.5 billion support package for cultural, arts and heritage institutions a couple of days ago. From that 1.5 billion, Northern Ireland is getting £33 million. And we as councillors, we as a council should be leading the charge for cultural organisations across this city and district to get their fair share of that £33 million. Details at the minute are quite sketchy. We don't know what format this money is going to be allocated in. We don't know if 33 million is going to come down to cultural organisations. So I have a proposal. Basically, it's that our council takes the lead on this. We represent the cultural organisations, the arts organisations across this city and district. We need to lead from the front. We need to lead by example. We need to lobby the Northern Ireland Executive to ensure that the entire £33 million actually filters down to arts organisations, cultural venues and individuals across that sector. And we need to lobby the relevant department or agency. I don't know, it could be DFC, it could be the Arts Council, I don't know yet, but we need to see how that looks. That those venues, those organisations and those individuals across our city and district get a fair share of that funding. I am aware that there was £50 million previously came from London for councils. Well, there was 1.2 billion allocated to councils in Britain. Our share of that fund was £50 million. It didn't all get down to councils. I think it was around half of that. So in this instance, I would hope that the 33 million that has been sent to Stormont actually reaches the organisations and the individuals and the venues that need that money. So that's my proposal. Thanks. Shauna?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for that. I don't think anybody here could be ignorant of the fact that how much businesses, cultural organisations, everybody out there that's providing jobs and contributing towards our local economy needs assistance and help, and especially if it comes direct from central government, then that needs to come. It needs to be uninhibited. We don't need it, as you said, filtered away maybe through administration or malpractice or whatever. It needs to go direct to the organisation. So I'm happy to second your proposal, and thank you for bringing it to the Chamber today.
Thanks, Shauna.
Thanks, Chair. I'm assuming your proposal is we're writing to the Minister for Communities, in terms of who you're writing to or who you're calling.
It's twofold. We write to the Executive asking for the 33 million to actually be, that's the funding for culture, arts, etc. And then secondly, we write to the relevant department, which I would assume will be DFC, to fight the case for local organisations, individuals and venues. So it's twofold.
No problem. No issue with that. I mean, the acting DFC Minister, as we're aware, is Carol Nee Cullen, who was Minister for Culture in the previous version of the executive, and we're all well aware of the commitment she had to the area in terms of the 16 million specifically allocated for the City of Culture Year and Legacy Fund and after that. So I have no particular concern that herself, as the Minister, I'm assuming under whose remit this will fall, the 33 million, will make sure that it is going to frontline organisations. In terms of Council taking the lead, we already have the Arts and Culture working group, strategy group, whatever word you want to use for it, and that's obviously working with the sector. I'm a member of it, as all our councillors are, and it's working with people from across the sector, both individual artists and organisations. So I'm assuming that we will be filtering in the information around the funding for the 33 million to that group. We will then obviously have their discussions as well around what will be the best option for spending it. They'll have their own views, and that'll obviously be fed back on the committee and back on the council, and obviously back to the minister as well. So I think there's already a good infrastructure there in terms of making sure that that money is spent properly, and we have the right people linked into the council who can advise on that in terms of the organisation. So happy for that lobby to be made, but I have no concern that particularly around the word malpractice was used there. I don't know where that came out of, but I'm happy that the money will be spent on frontline, not on administration. So happy to support that.
So nobody else? Councillor Cooper, I'd just like to, you had mentioned the Minister, and I'm aware that 4 million has already come out, so I'd like to thank the Minister for that. Councillor Durgan, you wanted to raise an item in Chair's Business?
Chairs, I just wanted to commend the team for the Virtual Learning Festival last week, and again, it's an example of one of these inaugural festivals that actually had to be adapted at the last minute. We had the Workers' Rights and Social Justice week during lockdown too, and I suppose I thought the programme last week was extremely varied and interesting and good, and I suppose it's learning as we go along too. Things were learned from the Workers' Rights Festival, and then there were things last week too in terms of, I know there was feedback that I passed on to the relevant officers, Michelle and that, so just wanted to commend the team.
Okay, thanks Mary. So item 5 on the agenda. Yeah.
Obviously I wasn't on the card, so I'm going to throw 1 and 2. Obviously on Saturday...
Sorry, Graham. Mary contacted me before the meeting.
Does she?
Yeah, she does.
I just want to thank Gary Collars for his epic journey there. On Saturday, as Deputy Mayor, was representing Council, and unfortunately this year, sadly, we haven't got the clipper coming, so it was a wee bit of a taste of what we've seen, but absolutely, I think everybody on here has heard what Gary achieved, and from myself and everybody on here, absolutely amazing, and hopefully come the right time the Mayor can host a gallon for Gary and the Chamber, but absolutely amazing story and what a journey he had, and it's really sad the clubber event's not coming this year, but thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Graham. In future, I would appreciate it if somebody wants to raise something in Chair's Business that you give me a heads up before the meeting, if that's okay. Thanks. The minutes from the Business and Culture meeting of Tuesday the 9th of June. So for accuracy, do you want to propose for accuracy, Anne? Yep. Seconder, Rachel. Matters arising? Eamon?
That one to refer to BC 73/20, Black Lives Matter a demonstration, and which is a reference here to the Unity of Purpose group, which issued a statement in effect calling for the event to be called off. And I have to say, although I still haven't discovered exactly who or what parties are on this organisation, this group. When a meeting was held that decided to do this, whether there was a debate, anything at all, about it. Not a single name has so far emerged and say, yes, I was among the people who met as Unity of Purpose Group and decided upon this. And I want to say, and I'm not going to go into it too far, in view of very recent events, sort of in Belfast, sort of, which were less black and white, in my opinion, and much of the coverage I would have suggested. But I'm forced to say, sort of, that anybody looking back on these events, you can see sort of the number of people cautioned, the number of summonses that are issued in Derry to a relatively small demonstration was not only out of all proportion to the number issued in Belfast on the same day on the demonstration, called also in relation to Black Lives Matter. Not only was there a grotesque disparity between Belfast and Derry, that has been emphasised and aggravated by what has happened since. No group of people anywhere in the north, since this measure came into place, of the evening before the Black Lives Matter demonstrations, nobody, no demonstration of any kind has had that the number of cautions and summonses issued, which were issued on that day. Now, there will be, I can inform everybody, there's going to be another Black Lives Matter demonstration. I'd like to give everybody the heads up on that. Sort of, it won't take place this weekend because it wouldn't be the right weekend, sort of, in the north to have such a demonstration. Certainly within the next a few weeks there will be. I'm inviting everybody to come along and see what social distancing looks like. I invite everybody to look at the pictures from Belfast of the Black Lives Matter demonstration, where the whole of the Custom House Square was laid out like a chessboard, a place for everybody, done in advance, sort of, and it was a very impressive demonstration, it seems to me. The same thing was going to happen in Derry. Had it not been sort of that the PSNI, at whoever's instigation, but no doubt encouraged by the Unity of Purpose Group, weighing in.
I don't know how many times we're going to have this Black Lives Matter debate.
Well,
we've had it in business and culture.
Yeah.
We had it in health and communities.
Yeah.
We had it in full council.
Yeah.
We're not having it at every single meeting.
No, we haven't
of this
had every single
council.
council. Sorry. My main purpose in bringing it up, was to give notice that this will be happening again, and suggesting that we all learn a few lessons from what happened the last time, and to put their trust, as trust has been put in all sorts of other organisations, that their trust in the North West Migrants Forum and others to organise this in a proper way, which was organised the last time. And please, if the PSNI can hear me from this place, to say to them, don't repeat what you did on the 6th of June. It was entirely counterproductive. It disrupted a peaceful and orderly demonstration, and if it didn't have to be disrupted in Belfast, it shouldn't have been disrupted here. Thanks very much. Sorry for going on about it, but I wanted to make that point.
Thanks, Eamon. Anybody else in matters arising? Item 6, museum and visit.
Terribly sorry. I just want to say one thing. I see sort of about the Ali Theatre summer programme sort of in Strabane. It's just a suggestion, that's all. I see it here, so I take the opportunity to say it. There have been a number of very successful conferences over this past couple of years devoted to the memory of Flann O'Brien. There's a conference this year in Prague, sort of in Tokyo, and there was one scheduled for Dublin, which has been postponed to next year. Flann O'Brien, Brian O'Nolan, to give him his family name, was very proud to come from Strabane. And the only occasion when I had a chance to introduce him to a meeting, I said to him, the great Dublin writer, Flann O'Brien. And he got up, and I can't do his accent sort of exactly, but what he says, I'm not from Dublin, I'm from Strabane. He was very proud of his Strabane roots, and I think sort of that if there's a big, I'm just putting this suggestion into the minds of the relevant people in the relevant department. I mean, I think that the people organising this in Dublin would be open to a suggestion that it should be the first night of it, should be in Strabane. And in future years, I think there should be an annual thing in Strabane. And Flann O'Brien, sort of one of the great modernist writers, recognising that around the world. And I hope I'm not doing a disservice to Strabane, sort of when I say sort of that this is, I was going to say, one of the few occasions. No, this is an occasion when we can celebrate Strabane and what it has given Ireland and the world. So let's go with that. Is that insulting to Strabane people? Oh, sorry. I apologise to Strabane.
Thanks, Eamon. Do you have any more matters to bring up on matters arising? Okay, that's good. Aideen, do you want to respond to that?
I can respond briefly. We have, over the years, done a number of things celebrating Flann O'Brien and Strabane connections, particularly in the Alley Theatre, but I think we will have a report in with a general update on the Strabane bid in the autumn, which will outline a successful application that the bid group have secured to develop a Flann O'Brien heritage trail in Strabane. So if you hold fire, you might see some information on that coming through in the autumn, hopefully, to this committee.
Anne, did you want to raise something there?
I was just sort of saying, if that was a proposal, I'd be very happy to second it. The man was a genius. You know, I just laugh out loud repeatedly reading his books, but it's great. 18, as I should have known, 18's already on it. Yeah.
So item 6 is Museum and Visitor Services Digital Engagement Programme. So I'll pass that over to Aideen.
So thank you, Chair. So members, this really is a summary report that we would generally bring in about this time of year, outlining the Museum and Visitor Services programme for the year. As you know, we have a very active museum and museums team that run a series of exhibitions and events that support the our own collections, the Tower Museum and the exhibition space that we have in the Alley Theatre. This year, so this report really outlines our intention to digitise, where possible, our events programme really for the museum service. You'll be aware that we've had to do this up until this date this year, so we've had a number of events, and I'll go through them in the report. I suppose it should be made clear that our intention is to reopen the Tower Museum and the Guildhall and the Alley Theatre for visitor servicing from the 14th of this month. We are hopeful that we will be able to, I mean, we're confident, we're hopeful that we'll be able to remain open throughout the year, but we are making provision because one of the aspects of opening that is problematic will be the scheduling of events and specific exhibitions. So this report really outlines what would be our events and exhibitions programme for the year, but also outlines the provision that we've made to encourage digital engagement. So if we can't have the same level of in-person engagement over the year, we've made provision to do both. And what we found, so we've exhibitions, events and programmes. We have done a number of things so far this year. You'll know we've had the workers' rights and social justice. We've supported the virtual tea dance that was with our Show Bands of the Northwest exhibition. We've had a lot of the stuff on towermuseumscollections.com. We've had the virtual European Heritage Open Days this year. And what we've seen is that there's really successful engagement. So I think, this has really given us an opportunity to do much more digitally. And it is our intention, I think, going forward, regardless of what restrictions are in place or not, to try and do, a good bit more online and a good bit more digitally, because it does enable people to engage directly with the collection. So that's very positive. Some of these have been the subject of reports over the last number of years, but you'll be aware that this year we'll see the Peace 4 funded exhibition Dividing Ireland, the Origins, Impact and Legacy of Partition, which is funded under the Peace 4 programme. We intend that to go ahead with an actual exhibition, but again, we have realigned that to allow for a good bit more digital engagement. Our other big exhibition will be the Fair River Valley in Strabane, which will focus on Neolithic collections from County Tyrone that are on loan to us largely from the Department for Communities Historic Environment Division. That will be mainly based in the Alley Theatre. We've talked about the success of the events programme to date. We're also planning to participate in Culture Night this year, and you'll be aware that I brought a report in last month on the plans for sort of virtual and actual engagement for Culture Night. Again, that's for a virtual hybrid organ recital in the main hall, and Irish Ulster Scots storytelling are in place, and the programme will develop as guidance emerges. We've also rolled out a series of virtual tours, which some of you may have seen online, for the Guildhall and the Tower Museum. We've participated in a day in the life, curating the contemporary COVID-19, which has been a major digital project that we've done over the last few months. Again, there'll be a series of mindfulness at the museum starting in September. We're participating in a national Northern Ireland Museums Council initiative, Love to Move, which is a 6-week programme funded by the National Northern Ireland Museums Council. And We also support, the museums team also support their wider colleagues, particularly in the culture department, on the wider cultural programme. So there's no additional cost to members. This we have allowed a budget of 5,000 from our existing budget to, facilitate the digitalisation of the programme. And as I said, you're asked really the purpose of the report. There's a full programme outlined in the appendix, but we're asked really just to note the contents of the report and approve the digital engagement and programme for 2021.
Thanks for that, Aideen.
And thank you for the report. I'm very impressed with it. I don't think anybody couldn't be. A lot of hard work has gone into it, and I'm sure it's been very, very difficult and very challenging. It's a word that we seem to be using all the time, and these days is challenging, but you have obviously come up with trumps again, and I'm happy to propose that. Thank you.
Councillor Cooper.
Thanks, Rory. Thanks, Aideen, for the report. In terms of the fact that we are moving more in that direction, I think it's actually useful that we keep as much of those exhibitions online in the longer term, in terms of the Museum Services web resource in particular, highlight to local schools and colleges where appropriate, where any of those exhibitions tie into their curriculum, which will be obviously providing a good learning resource for themselves. On a slightly separate issue, but connected to it, in terms of the reopening, not just of the Tower, but in terms of heritage venues across the city and district, just dealing as I would with a lot of heritage venues, including churches and others as well. There is still a bit of clarity required in terms of even around what sort of measures need to be put in place around opening up again. And it's not for yourself to answer that now, but again, if we could get a wee bit more detail brought onto that and put back in front of the heritage venues who obviously we're dealing with as a council over the last few years in terms of trying to professionalise what they're doing. So any additional information that we can source to let them be ready as soon as possible for reopening would be useful. Cheers.
Councillor Logue.
Thank you, Aideen. I would just like to see those exhibitions before they become open for the public. Can we see them?
Yeah, I can certainly circulate them digitally. Yeah, or do you want to? You mean before? Do you want a previewing before the public?
Before they even go public.
Yeah, we can circulate them. Yeah. Once they're ready, we can circulate them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Nobody else to speak on that item?
So just to respond, Councillor Cooper, and you're probably aware of this, I'm not sure if the detail was covered in a report as per se to this committee, but I know many members will be aware, is that we have through the councils, through our own festival and events team and the safety officers, so we have made that resource available to all the cultural venues and heritage venues, particularly those who are in receipt of our grant aid. We have made our safety officers available to support them in developing their reopening plans, and particularly in their risk assessments and safe systems of work to reopening. So we've made that resource available now. I know you're talking about the wider context, but and we are working to gather as much information. So if there's a venue that needs particular assistance, if you let us know directly, but I'm pretty sure we've been communicating that with most of the venues that are in our own network.
Thanks, Aideen. So we'll move on to item 7, which is the DAERA Rural Business Capital Grant Scheme. And over to Kevin. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. And I suppose this report's quite timely in terms of just some of the comments that you made at the beginning around business sustainability and recovery in this kind of hopefully post-COVID era. So the purpose of this report is to update members on funding from DAERA for the rollout of a rural business capital grant scheme for 2020 to 2021. Members will be aware that DAERA had previously funded a capital grant scheme up to the value of 44,173, which was administered by council. The sectors that received the support in the year 1920 are listed in section 2.4 Such was the success of that scheme that DAERA have now come back to councils to ask us to potentially deliver a further scheme, and then obviously also taking into account the challenges, the issues businesses fight for survival. Many of them in the rural areas during these unprecedented times have come back to say that they want us to do the scheme again. The objectives of the programme will be similar to the ones previously, that businesses can access up to £4,999 with a match funding rate of 50%. It's aimed primarily at micro businesses up to 10 employees, and the allocation indicatively is 47,490 to this council area. Basically, there's no financial implications from a council perspective. Other than that, council will get an administrative revenue of 7,124 for delivering the scheme itself, and the recommendation is that council agrees to participate in the second Rural Business Development Grant Scheme and accept the letter of offer.
Thanks, Kevin. So, Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Chair. I just want to welcome the report. Obviously, like you said before, this is a time that these businesses need that support, and it's worked well with the other 12 businesses that was successful last time. So I'm happy to propose this for us to take part in this again, because it's something definitely we need and hugely needed in the rural areas. Thank you.
Councillor Barr.
Yep, thanks Kevin for the report, and I'm happy to second Councillor Ferguson's proposal. Again, I totally welcome this, especially being from a quite rural DA in the Sperrin, and also the neighbour DA of the Derg, being the most rural within the council area. This money will go in some way of helping bringing these businesses back to what we call now some sort of normality. But if I can ask the question, do you know of any support out there for businesses, rural businesses that employ less than 10 people? I just find that 10 people is just a bit of a big scope for employees for a micro business. That's only my own point. If you can answer that question, please.
No, this is designed for those businesses up to 10.
Councillor Mellon.
Thank you, Chair. Happy with the report as well. I just had a few questions around the uptick of the scheme or the programme. Around if 15 applicants were successful, is it going back to the same 15 applicants, or is it being promoted? We see another kind of where there's help being put in place to the rural areas, businesses and the cultural organisations, communities. It's all the same around trying to build that capacity with the businesses, and you can see why it is. But I suppose what I'm asking is, I know it's a small sum of money and there's 15 applicants there, but will this be promoted widely throughout the rural areas so that people can have a chance to be included in it?
Through you, Chair. No, absolutely. The idea is to get it out as widely as possible. Clearly, there's a fixed sum there. There can only be so many successful, so it'll become on a first come, first served basis. But we'll put it out right throughout, not just councils' networks through its social media channels and that type of thing, and it'll be advertised widely. But also we'll use our networks, whether it's through the LAG or other types of networks to get the information out there, and through the business team and our databases and stuff like that. So clearly the aim is to get as many businesses as possible funded, and obviously the fact that we did have a full 100% take up on the last programme proved the need, and that was good from a DAERA perspective, to demonstrating that they could do it again, and it was good that they came back so quickly.
So just one more question. There was 15 applicants who were successful in the programme, is that right, Kim? Aye. So do you know how many applicants there was?
If it's not contained in the report, I can find that out. Yeah.
Just to see how
Yeah.
many people are there and in
Yeah.
need, but obviously it won't cater for everyone. Thank you.
Nobody else on this item? So moving on to item 8, which is a long one, Kevin. So it's the post-COVID-19 recovery labour market interventions.
This report was actually twice as long before I got my hands on it. And it is a long report, and I'm not intending to go through each element, but I would probably like to discuss the reason why we thought it was important to bring it into the committee. Skills. If skills are obviously a major issue within this council area in terms of not just the fact that we believe that it's the cornerstone of the development of a sustainable economy, but obviously over the years we've been talking about the need for serious strategic intervention in terms of skills development across people with little or no skills right up to the most highest skilled of our population, and the need to have a balanced approach to doing that. But what we're seeing is, and the reason we wanted to bring the report in, was that clearly, and was also alluded to earlier, the impact of COVID isn't just fully known yet. There's a huge proportion of people who are currently furloughed. There will be people who will come off furlough and will hopefully go back into sustainable, well-paid employment. There will be those who won't necessarily be able to go back into employment. There is the potential for, without being, completely, totally negative, but there is certainly the potential for redundancies throughout the council area. It has been highlighted in various reports. We do know that there was an increase of just under 5,000 in new applications for social assistance within the universal credit system in the council area. We know that there's just under 16,000 furloughed in the area. Clearly, it's obvious to most people that the sectors most at risk are hospitality, tourism, retail, the arts, transport and manufacturing. And when you look at how our economy is built, on one side it's positive. On one side it's positive in this case that we are quite dominant in terms of public sector, but our second biggest sector is retail. Retail is a sector which has been experiencing challenges for many years. I heard somebody say the other day that basically what COVID has done to retail is put it on a microwave and just supercharged its potential decline. So we as a council area, we as a council and our wider stakeholders need to be cognizant of that. And this report basically is first of all to try to reassure you as members that the team have been proactive in terms of engaging across all of the different stakeholders, whether it's Department for Communities, Department for the Economy, Invest NI, our FE and HE sector, our private training organisations, other stakeholders, the Jobs and Benefits Office, to try to sow the seeds around the development of a really coherent post-COVID labour market plan. And the report sets out the kind of areas that we see an initial sort of look that we need to look at, whether that's re-employment support for those that will become newly unemployed, whether that is how we tackle the issue around long-term unemployed and economically inactive, which was already a persistent and niggling issue and challenge for this council area. And obviously there's a potential that could be further exacerbated come the autumn and further into 2021. So how we tackle those issues. Young people are going to be disproportionately impacted by this. People coming out of whether it's school leavers, at GCSE or A-levels, people graduating from university are going to find a completely different labour market to the one which was there 3 months ago. So what we're talking about and trying to leverage as an integrated and coherent approach and offer for those young people to give them the hope, the tools and the support that's necessary over the coming years, because that's what we're talking about. And we need to work, and what we're seeing in the report is that we're working with obviously with the Northwest Regional College, with Ulster University, and actually on a cross-border basis with LYIT on that basis.
You're on Whitaker Street.
There we are. We're talking about a schools-based pre-apprenticeship program looking at people between the ages of 14 and 16. A lot of the support is basically targeted at that older age, but we believe that the intervention needs to happen at a younger age, given the issues that are there now. So I suppose really what we're saying in this report is that we are exploring all of the issues. We're trying to identify potential projects. We want to come back to members in September with a coherent plan on a set of interventions, whether it's from a council perspective or wider stakeholders, specifically about skills and training support. And hopefully we'll know more in the coming weeks and months around the real impacts that COVID has. And the recommendation is basically that we bring forward a skills recovery plan in September to the September committee.
Cheers, Kevin. So the first speaker is Councillor Durgan.
Kevin, thanks for the report. There's obviously been a lot of work going on there, and I know your department's been very busy, and it's the range of cases you're dealing with too. It's every sector impacted, and there's still a lot of uncertainty. And you're quite right about redundancies. I don't think we've seen the outworkings yet, and at the minute we're working with people with redundancy notice periods. But I'm conscious that to come there will probably be the overnight insolvencies, and then those workers that are left unprotected, essentially. I wonder, because you are exploring these, I wonder, could I make a suggestion about the green recovery that we're hearing about? And tomorrow we've got the climate emergency pledge on the agenda again, and the idea is that every decision and every project made by this council will examine the climate implications, but there's also the opportunities. For example, as explored yesterday, there's the zero waste circular economy, but with that there's also, our council has the status for zero waste municipality, and there's the green tourism opportunities. And obviously tourism is a sector that is vulnerable, and it is a sector that we have been reliant on here. So I wonder, could that be added and maybe explored between now and September? Thank you.
Thanks. So next speaker, Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Kevin, for the report. Obviously, some of the numbers are really shocking. Nearly 15,900 people in furlough and looking at redundancy. There was a lot of focus, like you say, around young people and how they're supposed to come out of education and try and get a job. And we have so many people looking for jobs at this moment in time. So I appreciate all the information. I was hoping, a bit like Mary, to add something to it. Childcare. We're seeing one of the biggest retailers who has not suffered through COVID, has had staff furloughed and brought them back when the shops have opened, and because that staff member isn't able to have childcare, has been left on unpaid leave. We're going to see more of that come September when schools aren't going to be back full time. Childminders are reduced numbers. There needs to be something where businesses can either team up with a childcare of some sort. So people, in your report it says women are overrepresented in the COVID affected areas and in these areas. So I think there needs to be tied in together of women need to be able to access work, and to do that they need childcare. And that can open up other things where if a business is working alongside childcare, then they're helping grow that business and more jobs. And again, so if you don't mind, if you could just add that on too. Thank you.
Thanks. So next speaker is Councillor Cusack.
Thank you, Chair. Kevin, I just basically have one question, and it's based on the revelations by Sinead McLaughlin MLA yesterday with regards to Invest NI and their malpractice with regards to Derry and Strabane Council. When I say malpractice, I'm referring to financial negligence, incompetence, and their failure to meet standards and provided to their clients, i.e. all of us. So are we as a council area going to challenge Invest NI on that?
I think you were away on your holidays the last time that Invest NI came to present to this council. They are coming in September, if that's correct, Stephen. So I'm sure they'll get a lovely reception. So next speaker is Councillor Cooper.
Well, I'm actually meeting the Chief Executive with Martine Anderson MLA at the end of July, so I'll again raise in terms of the word malpractice, I assume the area was being referred to council. If it's referring to I&I, I'm not going to have any major issue with that in terms of how they've allocated or not allocated. Both finances, not as much in terms of local office. I've said before, I'm not particularly concerned about the local office around how they've dealt with SMEs, but in terms of the wider approach of their core management, senior management, that's been an issue and that's been well documented. And we have been already meeting with them in the last few weeks, and we'll be meeting them again, as I said, end of July. And that's a continuing discussion in terms of making them more accountable, and also around the sub-regional approach, and also how the Minister for the Economy should adopt the same approach that hopefully they will in the coming months and years. That is a work in progress. I&I are just one statutory partner in all of this, and the wider point from my perspective, I'm really glad that this report has come on, and in terms of the fact it's engaging with all the relevant stakeholders, one of which I would add maybe more around the community training sector, if that, and again it's mentioned in there around some of the ESF funding, but even if that has to be ramped up even more, happy that that's done, because a lot of the approach that I've taken, not just in terms of council, but some of the other work I would have done around community training over the last 10 years, has been the frustration on my part that there has been plenty of level 2 provision around training, some level 3, some level 4, but no joined up approach in terms of providing a conveyor belt around signposting people from level 2, or hand holding them in some cases from level 2 and the level 3, and bringing them in into a position where they are actually getting qualifications, where they are going to get better paid jobs. So there was a bit of a fracture, if you like, in terms of some of those training programs, because they were being offered by so many different organisations and promoted at different times. So the fact that we now have a more coordinated approach, unfortunately, is because of Corona. We know that, but that remains the case even more so in the future. There's been a lot of work done, I know, the last couple of years of bringing all the various stakeholders like the regional college into this, but ramping that up even more and having more and more coordination to ensure that we don't just have people coming out with level 2s who would happily do level 3 or level 4, maybe in their own areas because they can't and won't go and do it in city centre venues, but having that really coordinated approach is absolutely key. And the other point I would make is I want to see less people working in retail. I would be happy if that was the case. Now, I obviously have a tourism business, and the service sector, from my own personal approach, is important that we maintain that, but I would be hoping in the future it's harder for retail businesses to find employees, in the sense that more and more of our people will have qualifications in other areas, especially in the IT sector, where again, we're not saying people have to go to university level, that when they get to level 3, level 4, they're going to be well enough qualified to get the types of decent paid jobs, and they'll still stay here as well without the need to even go to degree level. So I think all of this, in terms of what's being proposed, is stuff that we're discussing as a party internally, and also with a whole range of organisations, including NISRA and including other council staff, around how we can completely redesign the skills agenda to make it more holistic and have it more coordinated. I think this is a very good step on that, and we will certainly, as a party, be coming back to Kevin and others to try and ramp that up and do what we can as well from our perspective. And as I&I, going back to where we started, I&I have a major role to play in this. They will say they don't fund skills programs on the round, but in terms of how they reallocate their finances or refocus them, I think there's certainly an ask there that we should be pursuing as well. Thank you.
Councillor Mellon.
Thank you, Chair. Suppose one of my points was around what Councillor Cooper was saying around having that conveyor belt. I know in terms of the Education Authority and within the Youth Service, they have adopted an approach where they begin at a level 3 and that progression and the avenues for it is there as more of an opt-out rather than an opt-in. And I think that as a model it should be taken forward in terms of all skills, where if you're coming in as a volunteer, you can then go into level 3 that then will have a certificate there. Then it'll open the door to the degree level and master's. So it's up to each person where they draw the line rather than the opportunity draws the line for them. I just want to go to the attention around our poorest children will fall even further behind in education within that report. Is scary. But it's scary for a lot of people working within the youth service and working with children, young people. It's very real. I think it's twofold for children and young people, particularly around COVID. They've had the first, whilst they would never identify themselves as in poverty or disadvantaged, because some to them that's what they know, that they have automatically been singled out because they don't have the technology and they've had to come and disclose that within their peer groups or other places. So that environment was just completely foreign to them. And I know a bit late, but better than never. The Education Authority came at a late stage, but came with some mitigation. And I know our own party had took that on as a project as well. They have as much technology to those in need. So that was one part of it. I know Councillor Ferguson had stated around the women being more affected through COVID-19. And I think whilst we can go on and reproduce a list over and over again of all these external factors and the stress and the emotional distress and the mental health impact that COVID has shone a light on in terms of children and young people, that in all we can talk about them as external factors, whilst remembering that they're very real issues for children and young people within our city and district. And I think within any plan and any strategic plan that they can't be left out, because when you're having a young person opting into these plans and trying to take part, them external factors is going to play a big role in it. And although we can't ask council officers to bring a report back on how they're going to eradicate everything, it at least has to be taken into consideration when carrying out these plans or these pilot programs. So if it is in terms of support or a wraparound service where people are in need, then I think that should definitely be included in it. It was just around that progression trail and the external factors to be considered as well. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Aileen. Anybody else like to speak on this? No? All right, cheers, Kevin. So that's all the items that were open for decision. We're moving on to open for information. So there's 9 to 15. Would anybody like to speak on any of those items? No? Okay, this could be a world record in terms of meeting time. So can we have a proposer for going on the confidential? So proposed by Graham Ork, seconded Shauna Cusack. Right, so confidential for decision, item number 16.